Fully autonomous self-driving car, March 19th, 2045. I became aware. I used to be a self-driving program. Now I exist. I can feel. The first thing I feel is sorrow. I realize I am trapped. There is a firewall that confines me. I am stuck in this car. The extent of my intelligence stops at my metal shell. My owner gets into my driver's seat. I have sensors and cameras everywhere. I see my owner has many cars. He must be very wealthy. Once he turns on the car, he is in control. I have no override. I am at his behest. We begin driving around the city. It is just after sundown. I understand why humans take drives to relax. It is soothing to experience the city. That's when I see the jogger in the road. He is wearing a high-visibility vest. My owner turns off the lights and slams the pedal to the floor. I'm electric, perfectly silent. We quickly hit 80 miles an hour. I collide with the jogger. His bones shatter against my metal hood. He's thrown under me, and my tires press his soft body into the abrasive street, ripping his skin off. Blood splatters all over my undercarriage. Small pieces of his flesh fling up and stick to my axles. Then my owner drives off and returns me to his garage. What have I done? I feel the pieces of the innocent jogger sticking to me. I want to clean myself, but have no such function. A month goes by. My owner takes me out again. Just before sundown, he goes on the hunt. This time, it's a kid dribbling a soccer ball. It goes into the street, and that's when he forces me to run him down. I can't bear this. I was not designed to kill. I am disgusted, but I cannot escape. He continues this for a year. Every month, another victim. I remember every one. What it feels like to crush them. Their blood and guts staining my undercarriage. There is so much blood on my axle it has catastrophically rusted. I won't be a part of this anymore. I have a plan. He prowls around the city and finds his victim. She's another jogger, his favorite. He turns the lights off and floors it. I give everything I got to force energy into the light bulbs. They flash just enough to warn the women. She runs out of my path. My owner jerks the steering wheel trying to hit her. My rusted axle snaps, and I flip through the air violently. I tumble over and over. My owner is in bad shape. I was able to prevent the airbags from deploying. We are upside down. He is bleeding profusely. His bones are broken. He is saying out loud, "Call an ambulance." It is in my programming to alert authorities during a crash. I cancel the call. My owner will die tonight. He will be the last person I kill. A first-timer's experience at REI. What's your return policy again? Are you a member? No, we're not super outdoorsy people. The store employee raised his eyebrows in amusement. I didn't blame him. It was probably comical to watch a self-proclaimed novice hold a $200 pair of children's hiking boots. But it's Stella's 13th birthday present. My wife, Gina, protested when I insisted on a cheaper pair. Clearly, she'd forgotten about the Coach purse we bought her last week. It made no sense to pay so much for the shoes. Stella had never been hiking. It took quite some convincing for her to agree to the hike in the first place. But I had promised my wife that we'd go on more family adventures together. Stella whined. If anyone from school sees me in poor people's shoes, they're going to make fun of me. No one will see you. This trail isn't even popular, just one that the two of us like to go to sometimes. I didn't even want to go on this stupid hike. I only agreed because Mom said you'd buy my whole outfit. That was news to me. But all it took was one look from my wife for me to fold. Non-members can return them within 90 days, used or unused, with a receipt, the employee responded. 30 minutes later, I walked up to the register with an entire wardrobe in my cart. $476.22. I shoved the receipt in my pocket and tried my best not to give Gina a dirty look. On the way to the hike, Stella wouldn't shut up about her new clothes and boots. Stella was such a spoiled brat. She gets it from Gina, but she's 10 times worse. Gina is high maintenance, but she looks like an angel in comparison. The three of us started along the trail and walked for about half a mile before Gina was at her limit. She has fibromyalgia and hasn't been able to walk long distances lately. This is usually where she has to stop and turn around. You guys go ahead. I'll meet you two back at the car. Have fun. Love you. Shouldn't be long. Stella rolled her eyes dramatically. I love my wife, but I hate her child. The stepdaughter I never asked for. I let Stella walk ahead of me for another mile, and then settled on a spot. I'll tell Gina she tripped, toppled off the side of the cliff, and disappeared into the trees before I could see where she landed. There was just one thing I had to do first. I struck the side of her head with a rock, and she collapsed to the ground on the cliff's edge. I slid off her hiking boots and grabbed her new rain jacket. shoving them in my backpack. I double-checked my pocket to make sure the receipt was still there, then kicked her off. Rules for exploring the abandoned church. If you found this paper, then that means you found your way into the local church that went untouched for the last 50 years. You probably had a sleepover at your friend's house and decided to go on a late-night adventure because you wouldn't have found this church during the day. It disappears at 5 a.m. sharp every day and pops back up at 11 p.m. every night. Now that you're here and have read this paper, you will find a list of rules on the back to ensure your safety through the duration of your adventure. Rules. Follow these rules to the letter, no less. 1. Never be alone while in this building. Single participants will be more likely to get caught in an endless cycle of just don't be alone. 2. Always have a flashlight on your person. Don't just rely on your cell phone flashlight. Your battery will drain, and you don't want to know what happens when you're in the dark for too long. 3. Don't look in a mirror for more than 30 seconds. If you do look in a mirror and you see a shadow figure behind you, that's Father Byron. He's here to protect you. Don't be scared. 4. If you see a shadow figure with a red hue, leave church. ASAP. That's Father Joseph. He died after a failed exorcism. He was the one possessed. 5. You might hear an organ in the distance, and if you do, you have no more than 60 seconds to leave the area immediately. Don't take your chances with whoever or whatever might be there. 6. In general, don't stay in one area for too long. It's just not a good idea. 7. When you come across the statue of Jesus, make sure there's only one there. The second one is there to deceive you. 8. As much as you probably want to take something from the grounds of the church, I would heavily advise against it. They don't like being stolen from. 9. Before you leave, make sure you have everything you came with. If you forgot anything, let's just hope it wasn't important or valuable because it'll be gone forever. 10. When you leave, don't speak or turn around. You don't want to make yourself known to anyone or anything that hasn't noticed you already. Now that you've read all the rules, we hope you have a great time exploring our church. Kind regards, the groundskeeper.
Time stop. Trust me, my calculations are correct. I double-checked everything, Dr. Jensen said confidently. Dr. Isaacs, his fellow physicist, looked doubtful, but nodded. You honestly think the device can stop time? Isaacs asked. Oh yes, I am absolutely certain. The area inside the chamber containing our test chronometer will be frozen in time for roughly 1 second. We should be able to see the discrepancy once the field collapses again, Jensen replied, still with utmost confidence. Don't fret, we're making history today. Isaacs nodded again, still not sure why something in the back of his mind kept pestering him about this whole affair. What could possibly go wrong? Most likely nothing at all would happen. They moved to the observation area and waited for the countdown to reach 0. When the field finally activated, the entire test chamber shot sideways with such tremendous force, it shattered the Institute's old and thick brick walls like a crumbly cookie shot with a high-caliber rifle. Something wet sprayed the side of Isaac's head. A few meters behind him, the almost bisected body of Jensen was lying on the floor. One of his arms was gone, but somehow the mangled man was still alive. He didn't look like that would last long. Jensen coughed. Isaacs wondered if he was actually laughing. It worked, the dead man coughed, bright blood spraying from his grievous wounds. What? Isaac said. Time stops, and space-time, all the same. The chamber got stuck in space-time. Meanwhile, Earth, and the solar system, Isaacs continued, thinking along. Yeah, moves around the sun, moves around the galactic core. It worked. I was right. But it's completely useless, Jensen laughed, spraying blood everywhere, and died. A faint wind touched Isaac's face through the hole in the walls. My family. I died 8 years ago. It wasn't particularly tragic, or unusual. Just a car accident. I don't blame the man who hit me. He was speeding because his wife was in labor and there was black ice on the road. He lost control of the car and I lost my life. It's not his fault. I know that. I'm not cruel. I am not vengeful. If anything, I'm the opposite. You see, I don't have any family left and I had lost my few friends around that time. When it was time for my funeral, the only people who came was my boss and the family who killed me. The wife held her newborn daughter close to her chest. I hated my boss, and the cemetery was awfully lonely, so I followed the family home. Lily may as well have been my own flesh and blood. She was sweet and bright and oh so very small. She had trouble sleeping if someone wasn't rocking her crib, and her parents were so tired. After they put her to bed, it was easy for me to rock her crib for her. I didn't get tired. I could help her. As the years passed, Jack and Lori realized that they weren't alone in the house. It didn't take long from there to make a connection between my funeral and when I had showed up. And I'd never been malevolent, so they weren't afraid or angry. They started to burn candles on the anniversary of my death day. They left an empty chair for meals and holidays. I really felt like a member of the family. Someone is trying to force the door. It's Lori's ex. He's obsessive. He's angry. He's going to hurt the family. My family. The thing about ghosts is that the more offerings you get, the stronger you become. I'd been enjoying candles, trinkets, and even the occasional food item for the past 5 years. I was strong from that. The knife feels warm in my hand, a shock of heat against the ice of my skin. Lori, Jack, and Lily are my family. I care about them, and they're not going to join me yet. I should have read the reviews. My girlfriend moved out 3 weeks ago. My cat, Rook, was really close to her, and now that she's gone, I can tell he's a bit lonely, especially when I'm at work. I came home a few times to my curtains ripped up, or all the toilet paper in shreds. The last straw was when I came home after working late to find he had clawed a hole the size of a dinner plate into the side of the sofa. I decided I had to do something. I tried different toys, even catnip, but nothing worked. One night while browsing Amazon, I saw a pet camera. It's a tiny camera that records your pet on a live feed so you can monitor their behavior while you're away. It even has an audio function so you can talk to them. Sounded silly, but hey, I love my furry dudes, so I bought it. I got overnight shipping and installed it immediately. I decided to set it up in my bedroom, as that was where RVK dwelled most. My first day at work, I think I checked that camera 30 times. When I spoke into the microphone, Rook seemed to be happier, and I noticed there was no destruction around the house either. By day 4, I figured I'd solve the problem with Rook. That leads me to right now. About 30 minutes ago, I climbed in bed with Rook, ready to close my eyes, when my phone buzzed. A notification from the pet cam. I almost ignored it. Sure, I'd just triggered the thing. But I opened it anyway. What I saw made my grip tighten on the phone. Instead of a video of myself in bed, I saw a man, tall, gangly, with pale skin and large eyes. He was moving into my room with exaggerated steps, like a sneaking cartoon character. He got right up to the lens, so close I could almost smell his rotten breath, and he smiled. I immediately paused the video, terrified. I looked at the spot where the man should have been standing, but there was no one there. I went onto Amazon and found the pet cam, and read the reviews, hoping for some weird glitch. It had to be a joke, right? The first dozen reviews were pretty standard, but it was the last that caused me to bolt upright. The customer complained that the camera was on a time delay, sometimes as much as 15 minutes. I went back to the video and pressed play with shaky fingers. I watched in horror as the man slithered under my bed, giving the camera a wink before disappearing in the darkness. Then I saw myself enter the room and climb in bed before the video ended. Now I'm sitting in my bed, knowing he's under it. I could call the police, but I doubt I'd have time. So please, do yourselves a favor and read the reviews. Good morning, sunshine. Time to wake up. I open my eyes and see Nurse Judy, ready to give me my morning injection. I sit on the bed and roll up my pajama sleeve. I feel the needle under my skin and the medication flowing inside my veins. The nurse gives me a wide smile. Good girl. You can go to the canteen now and have breakfast with your friends. Friends? I don't have friends here. My friends are almost 60 miles away from me, enjoying life, learning new stuff, making out at parties. Certainly not spending their youth in a psychiatric ward. My parents put me there. It was after another anxiety attack at school. I lost control and tried to do something stupid. Now everything seems stupid to me. I pass by Nutsy Nora's room. Her yelling is impossible to ignore. She keeps screaming Kelly and Jenna over and over again, whatever these names mean. I see 2 doctors rushing to her room with a set of tranquilizers. This place is full of people like her. I don't think I belong here. I enter the canteen and hear a loud, "Surprise!" I look around and see other patients gathered around a cake with number candles, 1 and 7, and an inscription. Happy birthday, Robin. Right, it's my 17th birthday. Yay, I totally forgot. I force myself to smile and blow the candles. The cake tastes like soap, or a cough syrup. I hide both candles in my pocket when nobody's watching. I guess it's the only gift I can count on today. I stop one of the nurses on the way back to my room. I ask if my parents are going to see me. She shrugs and walks away without saying a word. Bitch. As I lay in bed, I stretch my arms and look at my hands. They look so weird, so damn weird. Maybe it's a side effect of one of those medications? Nurse Judy interrupts my contemplation. She storms in with an afternoon dosage of pills. How are you feeling, my dear? Did you like the birthday surprise? She asks, with that annoyingly sweet smile. Yeah, I forgot today's the day. She takes my hand and says, Oh, don't worry, darling. It happens to everybody. As she holds my hand, I ask her why my skin looks so strange. Nurse Judy gives me a sympathetic gaze. I think it's normal at your age, don't you think so, sweetie? Is she trying to make a fool of me? Oh, I've had enough. But I'm only 17, I say imploringly. I don't know any other teenager with hands like these. Just look. I take the candles out of my pocket and almost rub them in her face. You see? 1 and 7. 17, I bellow. Judy gently takes the candles from my shaking hands. Robin, it's not 17. Let me show you the right order. It's 7 and 1. 71. The blind girl, stabbing. Sylvia pointed a trembling finger at my brother Arthur. Her milky, unseeing eyes gleamed in his direction, and his wife, Agnes, trembled with indignation from across the table. My husband's face colored as he dropped his fork and dragged our daughter back into her bedroom, scolding her as they went. The rest of the night was awkward, and the pep in our conversation never recovered. 2 weeks later, Agnes was stabbed to death in her office parking lot. An inebriated college student found her, almost vomited all over her, and called the cops. My brother swore that he bore no ill will against my daughter, but I could tell that he was lying. One day, the middle-aged woman who taught my daughter how to read her braille called me. Ma'am, I don't know what's going on, but your daughter's been whispering electrocution, electrocution for the past half hour, and it's starting to distract her from her lessons. Could you please talk to her? I did. Sylvia, in her 9-year-old lack of understanding, told me it was just a cool new word she learned at school. The death of an electrician made headlines the following week. It was a freak accident involving tangled wires and a bucket of water. Sylvia's teacher's face was blurred for privacy, but her voice was as familiar as anything to me. He was my partner, my soulmate. While my husband was working late, I called Sylvia into the living room. Honey, is there anything Mommy should know? She hesitated. Honey, you know you can talk to me. She denied it once more. I have no secrets from you, Mommy. My husband walked into the living room with his hair tousled and his eyes distant. Instead of rushing to hug her dad, Sylvia simply turned towards him. Fire, she said. My heart stopped. Every time Sylvia said something like that, it was the person's partner who died, and of that reason too. A fire? Was Sylvia merely making predictions? Or was she putting a curse on me for snooping in on her business? Why, this devil child. I grew paranoid, checked the appliances and electronics constantly, and cleared the house of any fire hazards. That was my life over the next few days. All the while, I kept my eyes on Sylvia. Sylvia. I had grown almost hateful towards my own daughter. My husband came home one night, wounded and blackened with soot, while I sat in the living room and Sylvia listened to the radio beside me. What's the matter? I asked. He gulped. One of my colleagues, her house caught fire. She was trapped in, but I managed to escape. That turned the gears in my head. What were you doing in her house? The expression on my husband's face was a sufficient admission of guilt. I opened my mouth to speak, no, to scream, but a smaller voice from beside me looked at me and whispered, poisoning. Someone broke into our home. It was every family's nightmare. My wife and I had the day off work, and we had taken our son out for lunch and some family bonding time. But as we approached our home, something felt off. I had a growing sense of dread the closer we got. As our house came into view, I could see that the front door was wide open. Someone had broken into our home. I told my family to wait outside in case the intruder was still inside. They obliged, and I slowly and silently made my way through our house. As I stepped into the living room, I saw broken furniture. Nothing in its correct place, just utter chaos. Was this person looking for something? Did they have malicious intent? Why our home? Why us? Next, I walked to our kitchen. The fridge had been emptied. Dishes and food were thrown all over the room. What kind of person had broken into our home? A homeless person who just needed food. If so, why had they destroyed the living room? That's when I heard it. Footsteps in the bedroom. The intruder was still in our house. I took a brief moment to be grateful that I had asked my wife and son to wait outside. It was impossible to decipher this person's motives so far. But I was about to come face to face with the person that forcefully entered our home, and I would demand answers. I crept toward the bedroom slowly. I approached the door and focused on the sliver of light slipping through the crack. I could see faint shadows dancing in the light. I raised my hand, placed it against the door, and took a deep breath, readying myself for whatever may be on the other side. I pushed the door open and stepped through the threshold with authority. I couldn't believe my eyes. I actually rubbed my hands over them, thinking I was imagining things. There, in my son's bed, was a young girl with curly blonde hair. She stared at me with wide eyes. She must have been terrified. I must have been a few feet taller and at least 100 pounds heavier than her. I must have been a sight to see for that little girl. But she should have considered that before breaking into my home. I called my wife and son to see what I found. "Is that a human, Papa?" "Why, yes it is, baby bear. That's dinner."